last week, Anthropic unleashed their new model, which is Claude. They actually released 3 different versions of this, and people have been going crazy testing this out, seeing how this works. Connor and I have both been testing Claude out, and Connor actually has done a bunch of stuff on this, has been pretty impressed with it. So Connor, I'd love to, turn this over to you and ask you, like, what are you seeing so far on Claude? How's it performing? And is this a serious ChatGPT competitor, as some people are saying?
So, yeah, the last thing, Jaden, you said is really the interesting part in a way that I think when we see something has beaten ChatGPT 4, I feel like we're in the zone now of it's like the boy who cried, we beat ChatGPT 4, because we've seen it so many times now. It's not really like a headline anymore. And yet I think that there's something different about Claude, or at least something that really sort of sparked my interest about Claude. So I saw it came out. I thought that was really cool. I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to test it, I'll test like the real thing, right? So I paid $20 a month. And Jaden, I don't know how many $20 a month things you have going at this point.
Stacking up.
God, right? Like it's just the stacking up. But I'm like, I really, if I'm going to test it, I want to really test it. So I tested the big model, the Opus version. So yeah, as you said, there's like Sonnet and Haiku. And when did I test it? I guess I did a YouTube on it or something like that. But I mean, the first thing is, can you put something up there? And I did the same test that I did with Gemini 1.5 Pro, which Google gave me early access to. The first question is obviously, can you find kind of like the needle in the haystack, right? Like you upload a huge context window, 75,000 words or whatever it is, or maybe 150,000 words, sorry.
This episode is brought to you by Kia's first 3-row, all-electric SUV, the Kia EV9, with available all-wheel drive and seating for up to 7 adults, with 0 to 60 speed that thrills you 1 minute, and available lounge seats that unwind you the next. Visit kia.com/EV9 to learn more. Ask your Kia dealer for availability. No system, no matter how advanced, can compensate for all driver error and or driving conditions. Always drive safely.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
And, I couldn't find it. It did only okay on that. But what it did really well was in terms of finding really interesting things about this book. And I knew that, first of all, I knew the book really well because this is a fiction book that I had written. But I also knew that there wasn't a ton written about this book on the internet, so it couldn't just look on the internet. And it did a phenomenal job, just like Gemini also did a pretty good job too, of like summarizing like plot points and summarizing like who is trying to be funny in it, just like really comprehension stuff, which in a way to me is almost more interesting than can it find the needle in the haystack, because I don't know how often you need to really, really find that. I tested it on that again. It didn't do such a great job. But Jaden, here's the thing that blew me away about it. I write a AI Mindset newsletter, and I'm like, usually you're sort of like trying to capture your voice. And I, as a writer by trade, I write my own stuff. So this isn't usually as much a use case for me. But I'm like, I'm just going to test this thing. So I can't remember exactly what I did, but I basically like uploaded a few of my newsletters. And then I said, hey, I want to write a newsletter on, I don't know, I just made something up in the moment, I think, and did it. And holy cow, I was writing on LinkedIn that I've only said, oh my gosh, like over and over again, really twice in the last year. Once was when ChatGPT came out, and the other time was the other day when I saw Claude 3 mimic my writing style. It was insane. So I don't know what your experience with it was, but my experience with that was amazing.
That's really interesting. What I would love to hear is like, have you tried their free version by chance, or have you just tried their paid $20 version?
I first tried the free version, but I immediately got stuck because I was trying to upload a book that was 300 pages, and it was like, oh, we can't do this or something. I can't remember what it was. It was like something where it got stuck right away on the context window. I'm like, well, if I'm going to try it, I might as well try it. So I haven't compared whether the free version is as good, but I'm guessing, I don't know if it's as good as quite as good at imitating, but I'm guessing that it's definitely worth the free version, because I think it's going to be way better than anything ChatGPT has in terms of, in this very specific context, no pun intended, but this context, which is, can it find the needle in the haystack? Because I think it's going to be way better than anything ChatGPT has in terms of, in this very specific context, which is, can it find the needle in the haystack? Because I think it's going to be way better than anything ChatGPT has in terms of, in this very specific context, no pun intended, but this context, which is, can this imitate a voice that I'm trying to mimic, basically?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's amazing. And actually, like, something that's a bit of a challenge. I definitely have tried to do that a lot. And if they've cracked that, I haven't been able to 100% crack that on GPT-4. Like, sometimes I can. It's like, it's kind of tricky because, and we've talked about this a lot, but like, if you're like, hey, like, act casual, act like, say this in a conversational way, then it's like, what's up, bro? Like, I'm here to tell you about the coolest new thing on the block. And it's like, no, like, please just say it like it's a conversation. Don't make it, wacky. It's not a surfer. But so that's a problem, I think, and we've talked about this a lot. If Claude can solve that. So when you were doing this and you're getting it to mimic your writing style, were you just giving it a sample and it was copying it, or were you using a prompt that was able to get a good writing style?
Yeah, good question. I was using a sample. So I was uploading. I think I put into a document. I think I put in like our first 5 AI Mindset newsletters or something like that. And then I just uploaded. I said, write this and write it around this. Now I think what it does best is, like anything, when you give these tools context and examples, it does way, way better. So the more examples you can give it, the better. There's probably diminishing returns. I think probably like 3 or 4 writing samples is probably enough to get it. And then what I did was what did I do? I think I ran it through like ChatGPT. I'm like, okay, give me like a framework for it. And I was making something up because I just wanted to sort of like test it because I hadn't thought about what my new newsletter would be at that stage when I was doing this. But then what I did was I think I was thinking, okay, like what if I just write down some stuff. It doesn't even matter what it is. You know what I mean? Like just whatever. And then, start off with a couple of sentences like my newsletter might sound, which sound like my previous newsletter, as I was like, just put this into a newsletter form. And I have like a GPT kind of called like Connor's voice. And it doesn't actually capture my voice. It captures it's just a little less formal, and it's a little less, it kind of gets you halfway there, right? But what's amazing about Claude, and I mean really amazing, is that when I'm writing a newsletter and when I'm writing anything, I just joke around a lot, like stupid little things, like I have, we all have our own kind of sense of humor, and I was doing that. And I swear, Jaden, like what Claude 3 was doing was recreating my stupid little momentary moments of levity or joking around as if I had written it. Like there was literally nothing in there that I was like, this is overboard. Because Jaden, as you say, like if you say like, hey, be casual, all of a sudden surfer dude shows up. And, if I say, hey, be jokey, or hey, based on this newsletter, whatever, and it kind of goes over the top, like super wacko humor. But this was, it was indistinguishable from my writing. And that's why I say it was only the second time since I discovered ChatGPT that I was like, holy cow, holy cow, holy cow. And it just makes me think, Jaden, because you're the master at this, 11 Labs is, you literally can't tell that it's not you on 11 Labs.
Right.
Days, right? I mean, video's not there yet, but, we're kind of getting closer. But imagine something, and I know you have other podcasts that you kind of like talk about this stuff around. Imagine that you have like AI Hustle or something like that, right? Imagine if you have Claude 3, you put in something random. It actually like literally sounds like the text. You upload that text, you put it into 11 Labs. It almost feels like you could create just like endless podcasts or something, because it actually sounds like you without you actually even writing the text.
Yeah, that is crazy. I'll have to play around with that and see how that works. So I want to share a little bit of my experience using it. Now, I'm gonna preface this by saying like this is definitely not a fair comparison, and you probably could do a better job of this. In fact, I'm gonna send you a prompt and an image to upload if you have premium while I'm talking. Maybe you go ahead and do this, and then I'll get the response, because I had an interesting kind of I guess, result when I tested this out. But essentially, I was using GPT-4 ChatGPT. So, obviously, this isn't unfair because I'm using the free version of Claude, which is more like 3.5. But when I used the free version of Claude, I essentially uploaded a thumbnail for one of my most recent YouTube videos. And then I said, how can I make this YouTube thumbnail better? When I uploaded it to Claude, the free version, so I'll also preface this by saying I was unable to do a fair check on GPT 3.5 because 3.5 doesn't allow you to upload files. So, I mean, right off the bat, I guess you got to give kudos and hats off to Claude for even in their free version, they're allowing you to upload images and using that as input. So I think that's awesome. But the response wasn't super great. And maybe that's why ChatGPT isn't allowing you to do this. I mean, obviously they're capable, but maybe like the response isn't that great. So the response it gave me when I asked the free version of Claude I said, how can I make this YouTube thumbnail better? It said, I apologize, but I cannot reproduce or recommend modifying copyrighted visual material without proper authorization, as that would constitute copyright infringement. Instead, I can give you some general suggestions for improving your YouTube thumbnails ethically. So I have no idea what it's going on, because obviously I gave it my YouTube thumbnail and asked it to, and it's saying like it's copyrighted visual material and it doesn't have like the rights to, so I don't really know what it's talking about. And then just gave me like 5 kind of generic, like, make it better responses. When I gave the exact same prompt and this exact same image to ChatGPT, it gave me very like specific results. So Connor, I see that you got some like very specific results. I'll go over those in a second, but I just want to say, when I asked ChatGPT the same thing, it actually had really like shockingly good responses for me. So it's like, ChatGPT said, to make it more effective considering these tips, it's like, simplify the elements to focus on a single message or subject. Right now, there's a lot happening which may distract the viewer. So this is not a generic thing. Like, my thumbnail has a lot happening in it. That's very true. Then it says, contrast and legibility. Increase the contrast between the text and background to make the words free AI videos pop out more. This is literally something when I was editing this, I was like, I should make like the text on here pop out more. It's kind of like gets mixed up in the background a little bit. So they're literally giving me the same advice. They go through and have like 9 different or 8 different like pieces of advice that were all very good. So I have to say, like, ChatGPT crushed it. Not only is it giving me like good advice, it's not generic. It's very specific to my thumbnail. Okay, so
Jane, you're saying it was actually reading the. So you're saying, like, was it actually saying like pop out these words, and was it reading the word? Wow.
So it literally said, like, pop out
That's
the words
cool.
free AI videos, because that's like written on the thumbnail, and make that like more easier to see, which is a good point, because it's kind of, it gets caught in the background a little bit. Okay, so
so look at So I just sent this over. So you take a look at what I just sent you. So, folks. So for the rest of you, like in real time, like, this is Jaden and I going back and forth on Slack, 2,000 miles away from each other. And Jaden just sent me his YouTube thing, and I uploaded it to Claude 3, which is Opus, which I pay $20 a month for. And I just sent it right back to Jaden without even really looking at it. So, Jaden, at first glance, how do these sort of like tips from Claude look compared to what you're seeing on GPT-4?
okay, I think it's actually doing a good job here as well. Okay, so it's in Claude giving me recommendations for this thumbnail. The first thing it says is, choose a more dynamic and action-oriented image of the car that draws viewers' eyes and conveys excitement. Okay, so, and, perhaps a shot of the car driving from a more interesting angle. Okay, whatever. The point that I think is good here is that there is a car in my thumbnail, and it's kind of small. So my thumbnail is essentially like me, and there's a bunch of videos in like, kind of like there's a whole bunch of videos behind me.
Like a mosaic.
A new tool to create videos. So anyways, one of them is a picture of a car. And so it is actually calling out that there's a car in there. I think that's good. The next thing, though, that I think it says make the logo larger and more prominent. Okay, I understand where they're coming from. On thumbnails, you can't make it too big. It's kind of, the text probably takes up 25% of the thumbnail already. But the only thing I don't like is it says use a bolder, clearer font. Okay, if for people that, you can go look at my YouTube video, my latest YouTube video to see what the font is, but it is the boldest, most clear font you can get, and maybe they're getting it.
So that's where it feels like, Jaden, where it gets a little bit, like it tries to...
Right, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like where it tries to sort of say, like, to give something generic. And we run into problems with the LLMs about this stuff all the time, where it's just like, it sounds like it's giving you advice, but it's like one of these magicians where they're like reading your mind or whatever. And in fact, they're just like, it feels like you're going through some struggles. Do you know what I mean? Like it gives you such generic advice, and you can't tell if it's looking at the thing or not.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's interesting. What I will say is one of its tips is the exact same as ChatGPT. So evidently, while they're both like giving me ideas to improve this, they're obviously, and this is, I know it sounds kind of funny, we're going like so deep into this little prompt about improving a thumbnail, but I really think that the way that it responds, it like applies to a lot of things. So I'm hoping that you get some value out of the background, but this is what I think is interesting. Claude and ChatGPT are both giving me one of the same pieces of advice, which means that while they are looking at my piece of content and trying to like improve it, they're basing it off of external rubrics, right? So they're obviously were trained on like 100 articles on how to make good thumbnails. And so they're like, these articles all talk about branding. They all talk about emotion. They all talk about like this or that. And so they're pulling that in beyond just like they're getting their data from somewhere. And a lot of these are getting them from the same source. So I thought it was kind of funny. So Claude, the one it said was, pick a color scheme that pops and grabs attention. And then what ChatGPT said was use consistent branding like a logo or specific color scheme to make the thumbnail instantly recognizable to your audience. So they're both like talking about color schemes in here. And so like, and that seems a little bit more of generic advice, but overall, something interesting Claude said was ensure the facial expression of the person conveys enthusiasm and energy to make people want to click and watch. It evidently got that good piece of advice, but if you look at my picture, like I am doing a big smile. So ChatGPT says the person's expression is great and it's engaging and friendly. However, you might want to consider placing them in a way that doesn't block any key visual elements. Okay, so it's like telling me where to position it.
Wow.
So ChatGPT evidently is like, it seems like it has a little bit better of a grasp of what's happening in an image because it's like your picture is good. So anyways, I just wanted to bring that up. I thought this was a cool side-by-side comparison. I'm happy, Connor, you paid for it, so I could actually give it a fair shake because the free version wasn't doing it. And to be fair, ChatGPT's free version won't even let me because it won't let me upload images.
Right. So Jaden, this is the thing, right? On all these tools, like every time we think like, oh gosh, that's a lot, and the $20 a month keeps adding up. Yeah, but think about how valuable that thing is. So I will probably hold on to Claude 3 Opus for longer than I thought. I thought I would just test it just because if it really mimics writing style really well, that could be extremely useful to me. ChatGPT I'll always kind of hold on to. But for example, like Elon Musk's Grok, I keep getting it and then I keep sort of like just canceling the subscription because it's not adding value. So it's just about, does this add value? Forget about like, is this worth $20 a month to you? Forget about like you're already spending it on something else and just pick the tools that you really need and that you're going to use over and over again because there's enough free things out there for you not to spend $20 a month on all of these things.
Yep, 100%. But I definitely say, try this out. If your use case really relies on something important, like for you, Connor, you're saying this thing is amazing at copying your style. And if that's something that you need one of these tools for a lot, then maybe it doesn't matter that it's not so great at dissecting images and getting the context out of them. It'll get better eventually, right? But whatever your use case is, sometimes that kind of affects what tools you should be paying for if you don't want to pay for all of them. All in all, I think Claude is doing a fantastic job. So there's pros and cons between that and ChatGPT. So I'm excited to see where this goes and how it improves. If you enjoyed this podcast episode today, we would love it if you could leave us a review. It means the world to us. On Spotify, you got to hit the About tab, and then you can scroll down and leave us some stars. And on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, scroll down, leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. Hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day.